Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat about what's going on in Spain while I go for a walk around the coast here in Portugal. So let's go. Now it's a windy day here on the Silver Coast. A little bit overcast as well, the sun trying to peek through the clouds. Birds are flying around, the various types of seabirds that we have in this area, but not a bad day. That is, apart from the wind, which, as I said, stronger than it has been over the last few weeks. And there are also strong winds, I think, all throughout Portugal currently, and unfortunately they are fanning some severe fires in the centre of the country, the part of the country which is close to the border with Spain. Severe fires in that part of Portugal currently, also severe fires in Spain in some parts of the country as well. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a tick. Now the first thing I'll talk about today is something that has been generating a fair bit of comment on the channel in recent times. I mentioned it on Monday, how some bars and restaurants in Spain have put their prices up more than inflation. We know that inflation in Spain currently is around 10.8% based on last year's prices, and some people are complaining that restaurants and bars have put their prices up by around 40, 50 or even 60%. So a lot more than the current inflation, and some people are angry. Some people are saying that this is normal, that this type of business is always going to put their prices up because they have a lot of increased expenses, staff costs, energy costs, and people understand that businesses need to increase their prices. But other people don't understand why businesses need to increase their prices, because the head of the Bank of Spain a few months ago said that everybody in Spain needs to take a hit. We need to realize that the only way to combat high inflation is to take a hit, to spend less, to go out less, and hopefully prices will come down as a result of that. But as I said, a fair debate going on at the moment as people are realizing that this is probably the most expensive summer of their lives. And as various people in the comment section have pointed out in recent times, high inflation is not unique to Spain. Other countries around the world are also experiencing high inflation, and no doubt people are seeing an increase in restaurant and bar prices in other places as well. But I think in Spain, some bars and restaurants are definitely taking advantage of the summer, taking advantage of the demand, and as I said, some of those prices up by 50, 60%, which to me is not reasonable. Because, as I said a minute or so ago, everybody, according to the Bank of Spain, needs to take a hit, but some people are not taking a hit. They're taking advantage of the average consumer, which in my opinion is not good. And here in Portugal this summer, I have also noticed that prices in bars and restaurants have increased, maybe not by 50 or 60% in a lot of the places that I've been to, but one place, for example, has put their prices up, especially on the prato do dia, the daily dish or the daily plate, if you want to translate it that way, and it's gone up from €7.50 at Easter time a few months ago to around €10 now. So I think that guy or that restaurant is taking the P155, in my opinion, of course. So the summer of high inflation, the most expensive summer of many people's lives. What can we do? As somebody else also pointed out in the comment section, vote with our feet and stop going to these places. That could be where to start. Now, another piece of news that has been dominating the press in Spain is about the tragedy that occurred at the Medusa music festival down there in Valencia, at a place called Cullera in Valencia. One person unfortunately lost their life when the infrastructure of this festival collapsed because of a gale-forced gust of wind that came through, and the organisers of the festival are under the pump because maybe they have shown some type of negligence in not shutting the festival down earlier. They say that they had no warning that this freak weather phenomenon was going to happen. They said that they had no idea that there was going to be strong winds, and of course that's the argument that they are using. But the state weather agency in Spain has said that they did put out a warning around 30 minutes before the event occurred, and contradicting what the organisers of this festival are saying. And it's amazing how many music festivals are taking place in Spain this year. I've never seen anything like it. In fact, I read the other day that Spain is the #1 country in the world when it comes to music festivals, probably because of the good weather, probably because the young Spanish population absolutely love this type of festival, and there seems to be festivals all over Spain this summer. And of course the Medusa one, unfortunately, as I said, ending in tragedy. And some people are getting smashed on social media for suggesting that maybe the festival needed to carry on, not be shut down when that person lost their life. But of course, as we know, when these things happen, you need to shut these festivals down. And the Spanish Weather Agency is saying that these freak meteorological events will happen more frequently in coming years, so we need to be prepared for that, especially in that Mediterranean part of the country, where, as we know, over the last few years also there have been some freak weather events. And keeping on the topic of freak weather events, as I said before, fires raging in various parts of Portugal and Spain at the moment. Severe fires. There's one, as I mentioned, on the border with Spain and Portugal in a mountain range, and apparently, from what I saw on the news yesterday, deliberately lit. Somebody decided that it would be a good idea to light 3 simultaneous fires, at probably 2 or 3 people involved, and it's causing absolute chaos in that part of Portugal, and also some very serious fires in many parts of Spain at the moment. I think there's a serious fire in Valencia, there's another serious fire in Zamora in the north of the country, and there's also a serious fire in Castellón. So fires devastating more and more hectares of land in Spain and Portugal this summer, unfortunately. And as I just mentioned, a lot of these fires deliberately lit, and that's something that I will never ever understand. What kind of clown thinks it's a good idea to start a fire and put hundreds of lives and hundreds of people's property in danger? As I said, I just can't comprehend this type of behavior. And the final thing I'll talk about today is the fact that inflation is also having an effect on one of Spain's treasures, the Menú del Día. I mentioned this in a shorts video the other day, how the average price of the menu is up to around 13 euros, 14 in some parts of the country, and lots of people have written comments saying how much they pay for a menu around Spain, anywhere from 8 to 12 to 13, 14 euros, as we know. And I decided to look into the history of the Menú del Día, and it's interesting. From what I can understand, the concept of the Menú del Día was written about in Spanish literature way back in the 1850s. That's when the concept first came to light. But I don't think it was a menu similar to the ones that we have currently, because as you know, a Menú del Día currently in Spain is a 3-course meal with dessert or coffee included. And I think they were talking more about a plate of the day or a dish of the day back in the 1850s. But the menu that we have currently is an invention that came about in the 1950s and 60s in Spain during the Franco times, when the government decided to put out a tourist menu, or make every restaurant in Spain have to have a tourist menu, because tourist numbers in Spain were growing at that time. And the government thought that it would be a good idea to establish a set menu for tourists. And I think it's from that where the current Menú del Día that we have in Spain comes from. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think that there are too many countries in the world that have something similar to the Spanish Menú del Día. Sure, here in Portugal you've got the plate of the day, prato do dia. In France there's something similar as well. Probably even in the United Kingdom you can find a dish of the day. But a 3-course meal with coffee and alcohol included sometimes, I don't think you can find that in too many countries in the world, or at least I haven't found something similar to the menu. Even when I was in South America many years ago in Argentina, they didn't have a Menú del Día, or at least I can't remember there there being a menú in Argentina. So it is something that is unique to Spain, and as I said a couple of minutes ago, it is a Franco legacy, which a lot of people treasure in Spain. And there's been a fair bit of controversy surrounding the menú del dia in recent times. The current government a few months ago tried to ban selling alcohol with the menú. They wanted to separate alcohol from the menú, thinking that it's not a good idea for people to sit down at lunchtime and drink wine with their meal. But of course that is part of the tradition. That's what people love, to be able to have a glass of wine or two with their meal, their three-course meal with the menú, for around 10, 11, 12 euros, as we know. And back in the late 2000s, I think in 2009, around that time, a famous chef in Spain, Ferran Adrià, said that in his opinion the menú had its days numbered. He didn't see a future for the menú del dia, thinking that it would eventually be replaced by a typical a la carte setup in bars and restaurants. But of course that hasn't happened, and the menú lives on in Spain. And I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that, because as I said, it is a very popular thing to do at lunchtime. For many, many people have a menú del dia. So will Spain's famous menú del dia live for another decade? Some people think that it won't, some people think that it will. The government, as I just mentioned, is trying to change the format, so we'll see if that happens, because as we know, this current government likes to tell people what to do. I personally hope that the tradition does continue, because it's something that I absolutely love about Spain. I've loved to sit down over the years and have a menú. In fact, every Friday we go to a restaurant and have a menú, so it's something that I do love about Spain. And as I just mentioned, it's something that I have been doing for the last 22 or 23 years of my time in Spain. And hopefully, as I said, the tradition will continue, but time will tell. Get an idea of just how windy it is here today with all of those white caps out there on the Atlantic Ocean. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Let us know what you think about Spain's famous menú del dia, whether it will last a few more years or whether it will come to an end. Let us know what you think. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego. Hasta luego.